Well, I want to give the flip side to another silvery metal out there, which is palladium. A lot of people aren't thinking about this, but first, I want to warn people, if you don't have silver, don't go buying palladium. Don't. Buy the silver first. Now, if you don't have that much silver, it may not be stupid to buy 1 ounce of palladium. Just get like 1 or 2 or something, 3 or whatever. But don't get a lot of it. Don't get a lot of it. You especially want to have silver first. Because of an emergency situation, silver is probably going to play out a hell of a lot better as far as a tradable type of currency than palladium will. But palladium is actually going to go up a hell of a lot more than silver at one point in time. There is going to be a situation that's going to drive it up. And you know, people talk about conspiracies and the market's rigged. I can almost guarantee the palladium market's rigged, big time. You know, there is such a record demand going on for palladium. And actually, last year, all-time record demand was around 8.5 million ounces. You say 8.5 million ounces. Yeah, that's it. 8.5 million ounces globally. Million, not billion, million. Now, silver, 1,040,000,000 ounces, according to the Silver Institute. 1 billion silver, 40 million ounces. Okay? A hell of a lot more. Right? And even if you do the multiplication out, there's a hell of a lot more dollars of silver, you know, being produced. Palladium is infinitesimal compared to silver. It's a joke and a half. But you know what? It's almost like silver's like got this cult following right now, and people aren't looking at reality. They're not. They will not. But I don't know what's going to happen with the price of palladium over the course of the next few years. I say it's going to go way the hell up, but it can go up, it can crash. It's probably going to be more volatile than silver. It's pretty dangerous. It's very tough to say exactly when it's going to sell. Right now, what to sell it at, but right now the prices are pretty depressed, considering that 2012 for palladium is going to be another all-time record high. Now, you talk about the conspiracy about silver, right? You know, they had margin rate increases in beginning in May. They had 5 margin rate increases. They crashed the price. Then it went up to 40-something again in the summer. Then they crashed it again with margin rate increases at the end of September. Well, they also raised margins on palladium and platinum. And, you know, the silver crowd will go, you know, it's almost like they get a religion around them. It's a silver religion. That's why they're kooks. And they aggravate me because they're not looking at facts. I got to state that, again, buy the silver first before the palladium. But I think, because it's a high-risk thing, it's like, I don't know how long you're going to have to hold it, but the palladium is probably going to go up more percentage-wise than the silver is. It's probably going to be worth more than gold. That will probably happen. Silver being worth more than gold? Yeah, sure. Tell me another one. But, you know, people don't want to hear this because it contradicts their religion. Their religion is silver, and they're just religious kooks. But I'm giving you the facts out there. Palladium is actually going to do better than silver percentage-wise. It's just that it's a riskier, more volatile asset to hold, and you might have to hold on to the damn thing for quite some time. I don't know when it's going to play out. I think actually some of the biggest, most prestigious types of people that forecast metals for the year, they expect palladium to do very well. They expect it to do better than platinum. They expect it to do better than silver by percentages. And that's what even the conventional people are saying. But I'm going to point out some facts about this stuff that you will not believe. First off, this is a chart. Global metals production for 2010 and 2011. 2010 is on the left, 2011 is on the right. This is silver, right? So they're talking tons, T-O-N-N-E-S, metric tons. In other words, 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds, right? So they're talking, this is just the graphic representation will do. Because you look at gold is way down here, silver's way up here. But we do know that most of the gold mined is still around. We know these simple facts, right? We know that gold has been around. You know, all the gold that's been mined on this earth, a lot of it's still around because it's sitting in vaults. It's not really a metal that's consumed It's basically sit and it vaults as a money. Basically, it's a must store of value. So even though these figures look so skewed, and also in the case of silver, if you take, well, losing the Silver Institute's numbers, the latest ones from 2011, if you take all the coins, all the silver that went into coins and all the silver that went into ETFs, according to the Silver Institute, 27% of the 1,040,000,000 ounces, 27% of it went into coins and ETFs. So almost 3/4 of it gets used up in like industry, jewelry, dental, silverware, and all that type of stuff. So that's consumed, right? Not the case with gold. So actually, in a lot of ways, there's a lot less silver to invest in. Yes, very true. Now, I want you to look at palladium. Palladium is this tiny little sliver on the side. You can't even see it on his chart. So if you look on the chart on the right, you got gold. That would be the small one here. So it's the big one now, right? And here's palladium. Palladium is like a tiny fraction of what palladium is produced every year of gold, right? Now, in the case of silver, now it's talking about all applications, not just industrial. I think industrial is like 45, 46%, something like that. And then you got silverware, you got dental, you got photography, electronics, or whatever the hell it is. But if you take the coins and the ETFs, it's like it's a little over 1/4 of the silver goes into coins and ETFs, according to their numbers, if they're good. In the case of palladium, though, you got about 60 to 65% of it going into catalyst on automotive. Now, the other thing I was stating before, and I'm going to say it again because some people don't see these videos from before. Automotive, you think it's just one area. Everybody drives a damn car. Who the hell don't drive a car, right? Now, global automotive production is increasing, even though it's not doing that great in the West. Globally, it's increasing. It's going on bigger and bigger in China, India, and Brazil. The other thing that's coming on, so in other words, there's more and more demand for catalyst. It's important because it's the only thing they can use for catalyst or platinum, one of the two. And if they use, well, in other words, palladium price is basically going to go to the platinum price, and platinum price is basically going to go more than gold. That's what's going to happen in the long run. Now, in the future, when we start getting off oil technology, you're probably going to go to hybrid cars, a combination of electric and, gas or diesel. Well, those type of cars with all their green technology use 30% more palladium per vehicle. So there's a big increase right there. And number three, another thing out there, and this is just the vehicle stuff. I mean, I'm not even getting into other things, but that's the big major use of palladium, right? Another thing is, in the case of palladium, you have off-road vehicles, off-road equipment, farm machinery, and stuff like that. They want to put catalyst on it. The whole Environmental Protection Agency garbage, everything else out there, all this stuff they're trying to protect green earth. They're going to put catalyst on all these off-road machineries, even things that are sold for off-road, like maybe dirt bikes or whatever, motorcycle. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's a whole bunch of legislation out there to put catalyst on all the other machinery out there that doesn't have catalyst right now. And they estimate that's going to use up another 10% higher amount. That's going to bring up the palladium demand another 10%. Now, the other thing is, the one fuel that we could probably have in the future that's probably going to be the biggest, cleanest source of energy going, and they're starting to find ways to, actually they probably already found ways, it's just hidden. My belief, it's hidden, but there's ways to split hydrogen from water cheaply, more than likely, although the conventional thought is it's too damn expensive. But you could do this even with solar power and stuff like that. Once you get a good way, cheap way to get hydrogen from water, the one thing where the use of palladium comes in, palladium is about the best thing in the world for purifying hydrogen, storing hydrogen in fuel cells, and basically processing hydrogen. So it's almost vital. There's like, right now, it's the only thing around. Like palladium at room temperature I think it's 700 or 800 times its volume. It will store that much hydrogen. So they use it in fuel cells. So the vehicles of the future that may not run off of gasoline may run off of hydrogen, so they're going to require more palladium. But also in the case of storing hydrogen from excess, the solar panels are getting more and more efficient. So like right now, maybe they're just a few percent efficient. Some are 10%, some are claiming over 20%. But solar panels might get to be 75% efficient. So when that happens, they're going to have an excess amount of energy to store. And what happens is, like even today, they have experimental houses that are actually made. They're too high dollar to actually put into production, but what they do with the excess energy from solar is they put it into hydrogen. And if there's 2 weeks without sunlight or something like that, or if you need all this extra power, you got all this hydrogen storage. So versus using batteries, and then they just run off of generators. You see, hydrogen produces, like when you run an engine off of hydrogen, it's got no pollution at all. It's like none. It's zero. So palladium is used in all these fuel cells and stuff. So that's just one green usage. There's like a gazillion green uses out there for this metal. And I'm saying the supply, the stuff that was produced in 2011 was 8,500,000 ounces. That was the total globe. 2012, it's going to be 9 million ounces. Now you notice the price. The price isn't doing nothing. The price was up to 870. The price is down below 600. So what gives? As a matter of fact, they had to pull out from Russian stockpiles, even a record amount, the most they ever did back in late 2011. So I say if there's actually some manipulation going on, it's probably more so on palladium. And you know why? You just figure it out. Now, the amount of palladium that's available for investment, remember I was saying about silver, you got between coins and ETFs, which coming out of there for the year in 2011 was about 27% of the supply of silver. That's this big chart over here. 27% of this goes into coins and ETFs. You get this little sliver here. You're lucky if you got 3% into coins and ETFs on palladium. You're lucky if you got 700,000 ounces to invest in. It's not even that. It's like less than 500,000 ounces to invest in. You're talking like $30 million would take out of all the palladium in the world, basically, that you can invest in for the years, for that year. In other words, not all what was stored up over a period of time, but for the year. Because you're only producing 8.5 million ounces, maybe this year, maybe 9 million ounces with recyclables coming into play. And you only got 2 or 3% of that you can actually invest in, because it's 60 to 65% is catalyst. You got a few percent of jewelry. You got dental and electronics. It's like way over 95% of it. It's consumed every year. Way over 95%. In silver, you might have almost 3/4 of it consumed. In palladium, it's way over 95% of this tiny sliver is consumed. So, you talk about the short squeeze in silver. What do you think is going to happen with palladium at one point in time? It's probably going to go through the roof. Now, statistically, I don't have a chart in front of me on this, and this is just a basic, simple chart that is, it's just a cheap information that's offered here without getting too technical, because you don't need to be that technical. Because what is really wrong with the situation as far as predicting palladium prices is that there probably is a rigging going on in the market big time. I could say that more of this metal than I could say of silver by far. This metal is far, far suppressed. You're talking about something that is much more difficult to extract than gold. You got northern Siberia. Norilsk mine in Russia produces 39% of the world's palladium, up in northern Siberia. There is not one living tree within 20 miles radius of that place due to the pollution from all the nickel and all this type of stuff. They got to pay the miners over twice the salary, and they can't even keep the place that well staffed. That's 39% of the palladium in the world, and 43% of all the palladium in the world comes out of Russia. Close second to that is South Africa with almost 40%. The rest of it, a large percentage of it, is coming from North America, Stillwater, and North America Palladium in Canada. Actually, North America is coming on a little bit stronger as Russia seems to be slowing down a little bit as far as their output of palladium. So I could see a big time short squeeze in this metal. Now, when they had a short squeeze, it happened back here in 2001 and early 2001. think the price was 1100 around there, and gold was basically down, 300 or something, or whatever it was. Basically, I know palladium at that time went to more than 4 times the price of gold. It spiked due to a rumor that Russian output was basically going to be shutting down or slowing down to a trickle. So you got two places where most of this stuff is coming from in the world. That's why I say this stuff is probably going to be the best investment of all time. It's going to blow away silver. It's going to totally blow away silver. Now, I also want to point out that if you had 500,000 people buy 1 ounce of palladium, you're pretty much taking that year's the available amount of palladium to invest in over, say 2012. That would pretty much take almost all of it off the market. What would happen to the price of palladium? It'd probably start skyrocketing right there, wouldn't it? So, the only problem is with this stuff is that it's not good in a case of a financial collapse. It may not have that liquidity, like recognizability, like silver would have. So that could be a major problem. So you want to have the silver first before you go messing around with the palladium. But, if you want to even just buy 1 ounce, that could maybe make a big dent. If you have 500,000 people doing that, not 500 million, because it's for 2012, there's going to be 9 million ounces produced, and that's supposedly going to be a record amount of palladium produced globally for the whole year, 9 million. So, with over 95% of it being consumed, way over 95% of it. So, if people take 500,000 ounces off the market of palladium, that's not too difficult to do. That should drive the price up quite a bit, and I expect that this is actually going to be going up a hell of a lot more than silver is in percentage-wise. People don't believe it, nobody's saying it, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably a hell of a lot more reality, but I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. So, you could just say when it's worth more than gold, maybe that'd be the time to sell it, but it could be worth 3 times gold or 4 times gold. I don't know. It could go up to some insane price. Gold may eventually go to $8,000 an ounce. Maybe it's going to take 5 years for that to happen. But maybe at that time, palladium might be worth $10,000 or $12,000 an ounce. So, if you bought something at $600 or under, you got yourself a hell of a good investment.